All righty. Hello, everybody. Great to have you all here. I know we have a bunch of people trickling in, but very excited to settle in here for a great See Explain panel today. While you guys are all joining, would love to see some different companies and roles that we have in here. So feel free to jump into the chat. Let us all know where you're coming in from and where you guys work, and we'll kick things off here shortly. Hi, Monzi. All right, we got a few people coming in. Portugal. I'd love to get out to Portugal. Andrew jumping in. Thank you for working at Talent Pop, Andrew. We appreciate it. Romania. Wow. Very cool. Belgium, South Africa, Kenya. Awesome. Well, wow, we have a lot of people calling in from a lot of different places today, which is super exciting. Thank you guys all again for joining. I'm going to jump into things here, and very excited to talk a little bit more about, CX priority for 2026, what that looks like over here at Talent Pop and at a bunch of different places. My name is Garrett. I am the partnership manager here at Talent Pop and I will be moderating today's panel. We have a lot of fun and exciting stuff to chat about. Obviously, over here at Talent Pop, we have been supporting 750 of the best e-commerce brands, and we've seen shifts in CX at a rapid pace. In fact, we usually see it before it hits kind of the mainstream of different companies and different e-commerce brands. But we're excited today because one big thing that we want to talk about is customer expectations are just tightening at a very fast rate. So this is really, really exciting to show you guys how the mainstream media is changing with all of this stuff, and then also response speeds and how we can find a better way to make proactive communication, self-service, and real-time accuracy with our CX. AI is shaping how teams meet those expectations, and not just by replacing those agents, but actually freeing them up to really work more strategically in a more smart way and then also more efficiently. So we really wanted to bring our panelists on to talk a little bit more about that and how we can kind of navigate that into the new year. Today's conversations will follow a couple different lenses. We'll dig into number one, kind of what's changing in customer expectations as we head into 2026. We know that there's always new things coming into the world of CX and e-commerce. So we'll get to talk about that a little bit. How leading brands are adapting their support strategies. So, what ways are they supporting new initiatives for the year? What top performing teams do differently? And then how fulfillment and inventory accuracy can impact CX outcomes. So, another way that we're really going to kind of dive in. And then, lastly, what proactive CX really looks like. How do we get proactive, not reactive, into the new year and really kick off a great 2026? By the end of this, we really hope that you guys have a more clear picture. I think that's what everybody here at Talent Pop and on this panel is looking for. And we'll do that in a couple different ways, but kind of the big thing that we want to do is help build a support org to kind of help you all get in front of the curve and set your teams up success. So I love that we have here. If you guys want to drop some lightning bolts in the chat, I have not seen the lightning bolt emoji in a while. We're going to get ready to go and kind of kick off this panel here very shortly. And I am excited to introduce some of our amazing panelists, and we're going to have them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about this year so far. So let me pull this up super quick, and we're going to dive into some of the panelists. Awesome. First, I would love to have Natalie introduce yourself.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Saw some people from North Carolina if I looked at the chat correctly. So, hey, I'm kind of local, depending on where you're at. I am Natalie, partner manager at Gorgeous, based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Super happy to be here and excited to chat with you guys a little bit more about just obviously the hot, word or phrase of the year. We have AI, where it fits in, what's looking like it's not going to go away, what you guys can do to prep, and excited to chat kind of about where you're at and how we can almost level you up.
Awesome. Very
Same
excited to
here.
have you, Natalie.
Thanks.
I am going to kick it over next to Heidi. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am based in Chicago. I am from the ShipBob team. I'm a partner manager. I'm very, very excited to be here with you all. Fulfillment is a huge talking point when we talk about customer service and really providing our e-commerce brand founders and customers with the best possible experience throughout the sales cycle. So excited to chat through that and what that looks like for you all.
Awesome. Heidi, super excited to have you as well. Franco, let's go ahead and kick it over to you.
Hey guys, Franco. Based in LA, I'm the CX manager at Kudos. We are the first diaper with cotton lining. And just yeah, super excited to dig deep into all things CX as we look into like what's coming up this year.
Awesome. And last but not least, Andrew, why don't we have you
Man,
introduce yourself?
thought you forgot about me, bud. You got me a little bit sad. Hey guys, great to be here. My name is Andrew Stevens. I'm the director of team operations here at Talent Pop. Really excited to be on today's panel. I think we have some exciting topics we're going to be discussing. So just looking forward to learning a little bit more about everyone else's perspective.
Awesome. Super exciting. Well, we are going to jump in to our panel here now and talk a little bit about kind of the CX engine. We're very lucky here that we have all these different, very, very cool professionals that decided to take some time out of their day to come hang out with all of us and learn a bit more. We obviously have Franco, who's kind of going to be bringing some inside scoops into just fast-moving e-commerce brands, which I think will be really interesting, and kind of how they're navigating that. Obviously, Natalie with kind of the visibility of thousands of merchants, kind of in the help desk world, what she's seeing on a daily basis and what their clients are seeing. Heidi, obviously, kind of on the logistics side, really getting to see how fulfillment really does impact CX, because I think we know it does, but getting an inside scoop on that is something rare. And then obviously Andrew coming in and telling us just how Talent Pop's kind of moving forward in the e-commerce space, which is 750 different brands, and kind of pushing them forward with CX. Awesome. Well, I'm going to jump in. Feel free to throw some different questions in the chat here. We'll be going back and forth and moderating, and obviously wanting to make sure that we get a good Q&A going. Questions answered from these panelists, as we know their time is very valuable. So excited to do that. But let's go ahead and kick things off here. I will ask this question and kind of open it up to the panelists. Feel free to jump in whenever you are ready. Um, as we look toward 2026, what is the most significant shift you're seeing in customer expectations? And how are brands adjusting their support strategies to meet those expectations?
I'm I'm happy to jump in here. I would say one of the biggest shifts for ShipBob is that customers are now expecting that instant clarity, not just fast responses. So they're wanting accurate answers, real-time order visibility, and proactive communication before they even think to ask. So brands are responding by tightening the connection between CX, operations, and logistics. And I think AI is really helping teams respond faster, but the real unlock is operational transparency, real-time inventory, real-time tracking, and real-time policies.
I was gonna say big plus one on that one. It's not just about speed anymore. I think speed used to be such a wow back in the day, but it has come very, very far. Sometimes I'll even get a message and sure, it is instant, but it doesn't really help me. It only adds kind of fuel to the fire. So I think speed is very much like a secondary wow at this point. I think one of the biggest shifts I'm seeing is that customers are really, really counting on brands nowadays to keep up. So you'll see an Instagram ad. Does the team that knows that you wrote in to an Instagram DM see that you've also emailed in the past? Can they see that you've returned a few orders? They're not really paying attention to like the five ways that they'll communicate with you. They just want to know that you kind of got them covered no matter what route you go. I am, for one, somebody that goes to like five different channels and socials before I even buy anything. I'm on Reddit, I'm on Instagram, I look at the reviews. Lord knows I'm all over the place. And I kind of just want the brand to keep up. I want them to, exactly to your point, know what my questions are, answer them before that. If I reach out to you from just one centralized place, because there's so much competition nowadays that those little differentiators that seem very small can really be the difference between getting them to not only add something to cart, but actually check out and keep them engaged and coming back. And that's definitely changed since I've started online shopping a decade ago at this point. So changing quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead, Franco.
I was gonna say, I think you both hit the nail on the head there. The only thing I can really, I think, add to that is that like ultimately support is becoming less about answering questions and more about like preventing friction before the customer ever feels it. So like all the things I think customers now expect, speed of answers, like the accuracy of information and like personalization all at once. So like just trying to get ahead of that before we even get the questions is really where the challenges are.
Yeah, absolutely. I want something that Natalie said, and Franco, you kind of touched on a little bit, but just the ability to be so proactive in the space that you're kind of always ahead, like around the corner of that curve, I think is something that I've noticed a lot more. And brands have been kind of lunging at that and finding different ways to get creative with, the next mainstream thing or the next thing on social media that's going to hit. And I think a lot of those things have really pushed brands to get out of their comfort zone a little bit, maybe do something different, which I think is awesome. So yeah, definitely something that I would be very curious to see how that changes throughout 2026, but all very good points. Awesome. Well, we can kind of jump in to another question here. And Franco, this one's just a little, just to hear a little bit more about Kudos and where you guys are coming from. But from kind of the inside of a fast-moving e-commerce brand, I guess, what are some of the changes in customer behavior that you guys have seen kind of in the last year that maybe surprised you or is a little bit different for you guys? And I guess, how are you guys trying to get ahead of that curve in 2026? And what are you guys doing differently?
Yeah, I think like what surprised us the most over the past year wasn't necessarily like a change in volume, but more so like a change in intent, like what customers are reaching out for. So like we're used to getting the basic questions, we're used to getting the Wismos, we get those every day, and we're very much like efficient on answering those. But we're seeing more questions around like when something feels uncertain or where the information isn't quite clear and wanting to like dig deeper than just like where's my order or I need quick information on my next order. And so for us in the diaper world, that looks like questions around like materials and ingredients. Like if I reach out about a product issue last time, can I expect that to be resolved on my next order? Like really kind of going beyond just like the where's my order type of question. So um, yeah, really, I think that showed us that like customers are not just like looking for the quick answers, but they're looking for that level of assurance when they reach out to us. And
Mhm.
I guess what that means for us as an organization is that we've been like rebuilding our CX workflows around like predictability, resolution, and like not just speed. So like tightening the feedback loop between CX and ops and product, reducing the handoffs, and as we look to design like automation, like focusing on like how do we fully close that feedback loop as opposed to just like deflecting tickets away. And ultimately, the goal is that by the time a customer reaches out to contact us, we've already anticipated the issue or we can resolve it in one or as few interactions as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. That last part really was interesting to me. Just, trying to get ahead of that and know where they're coming from, and kind of just anticipating those needs of the customer. I think that's something that's definitely huge, and would love to see how that just becomes a bigger notion in the space going forward. Andrew, do you have something to share there?
Yeah, I completely agree with Franco. I think there's just this expectation of customers now, not only in 2026, obviously we just started this year, but just across the board from what we've been seeing along the, top brands that we work with, is that customers just want assurance and like um, confirmation. They want to speak to somebody that's confident. They want to be working with a brand or have their questions answered in a way where they truly walk away from the experience feeling like, okay, I feel reassured. And I think it's more important than ever to make sure that with your team, with the questions that your customers are asking or might be asking, based upon the type of customers that your customers are. Obviously, if they're health focused, they're going to have some of these questions about like what ingredients are in the diapers, like how do you guys produce these, where are these produced, and making sure that your team is well equipped with those answers and is able to answer those questions quickly, I think plays a big role into like this pattern we're definitely seeing. as we continue to move into 2026 is people really are looking for that level of confidence in the brands that, they're deciding to purchase with or continuing to make future purchasing decisions with.
Yeah,
1000%.
I love it. Yeah, we had something come kind of in the chat here. I want to help the e-commerce shippers and their consistent lanes or any other opportunity. And I think that's very interesting because we have a lot of different things in this space that people are starting to ask for. And I think like for Kudos' example, like the materials, right? The people are starting to get a lot more granular on products and which products they invest in and which products they actually purchase. And I think that's number one, it's going to be interesting to see how the consumer changes with that, but also how do the brands, find a new way to show their materials, show their brand through their products, and truly invest more in their different products, and kind of in the way that they show all of these people who they are as a brand, which is very interesting. So awesome. I appreciate you guys jumping in a little bit on that. We're going to push to kind of another opportunity to talk about how brands should be enabling themselves for this year or kind of taking an inside look on themselves. And I guess this question will kind of open up to the whole panel here. But if you had to design kind of a 2026, scorecard or CX scorecard, so to speak, for brands to measure themselves against, what would be absolutely essential to have on this scorecard in order to kind of compete with these other massive e-commerce brands in the space that are really finding success so far?
Can hop in here. I have some initial sort of thoughts come to mind. I feel like ultimately, like a 2026 CX scorecard goes again away from like how fast are you responding and focusing on like reliability and like how are we resolving things end to end, like not just with the customer, but like the full issue, the full feedback loop. So like I guess like four sort of areas here kind of come to mind. The top two are more like CXE, I guess you can say, is like first contact resolution. On the internal side, like is the team set up for success on that first reply? Like how much can we resolve it like one and done, reduce that customer effort, which I guess would be the second point there. Like on the customer side, how many handoffs, how many people did they have to go through, how long did it take us to get back to them? So just like reducing the friction. And then I think getting more into like that like reliability and trust factor. Two other areas that I think would exist on my scorecard is like the predictability and trust signals that like we get from customers, based on like are we meeting their shipment expectations, subscription changes, like everything that they've kind of asked us in the past or trends that we've seen from customers, are we getting ahead of it and providing that solution before the questions even arise? And then again, I think going back to the feedback loop, I think ultimately being able to what am I trying to say here? I think ultimately CX shouldn't measure problems, but it should shorten how long they exist. So, and I think that the feedback loop is like super key in that scorecard.
Yeah, Franco, you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the end-to-end post-purchase journey. That's certainly something that ShipBob would focus on, and would be on our kind of CX scorecard because we want to make every line item objectively measurable inside the operations stack. So one of the things you mentioned was reliability. And for us, that comes with on-time delivery, one time in full. So it's ultimately for shippers the foundation of trust and conversion. So delivery punctuality is one of the strongest predictors of that, and the strongest predictors of satisfaction and repeat purchase. Another component of that is our 2-day shipping coverage and badging. So that ultimately drives repurchase confidence and higher cart conversion as well. So 2-day delivery is now kind of table stakes, thanks to the Amazons of the world and the expectations they've kind of set for us. So we're really focusing on our 2-day express program and offering that 100% contiguous US coverage and on-time delivery performance. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was just overall tracking transparency. It just reduces support costs and improves post-purchase experience overall. So shout out to Gorgeous and Aftership for our tracking and transparency tracking, but ultimately shoppers just expect full visibility at this point. So that's a huge talking point for us.
The 2 day makes me laugh. If my mom orders anything that's not from Amazon, she says it takes quote unquote forever. And I'm like, that's not how that works. So it is crazy how much that shifts the mindset, but it's very true. I did want to add just a little component of like what a typical Gorgeous, obviously seeing a lot of agent focus, whether human or AI, what kind of our scorecard would look like. In my ideal situation, a scorecard is obviously, and that's the goal with all of the ones that were mentioned, it's going to have actionable items tied to them. So there's three that come to mind. The actual CX team's impact on revenue, I think it's slept on. I've made that point a lot of times. A lot of agents really set the tone for whether someone comes back, they don't come back, how good the experience is. And there are ways to measure these actual interactions, regardless of the channel that they start with, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, etc., with actual revenue stats. So that to me is a key indicator. So you know where to focus the team's time and resources. If you're seeing that one channel is maybe more profitable than another, you know how to divide resources that way. Another one is also going to be on intent. And I think, Franco, like that one you pointed out, why are they writing in specifically? How can we get ahead of that? And it's really just going to guide your team in making the most of the resources you have. If you know the why, you can then kind of work backwards and catch those before they even come in. And then last but not least, how much are you automating? To me, this is one that could be great, but you want to make sure it's quality automating, and not just closing it for the sake of closing it. Did the reason that the actual merchant write-in get solved? How accurate was it? Did it match the actual policies and your resources? So it's the quality of the automation rate, not necessarily just, hey, this ticket was closed by an AI agent. That's great. But does it reflect the quality that a human agent can? So you guys can know what needs to be tweaked and adjusted. So you feel that your on brand voice, your policies, etc., are all matched, regardless of whether online, like human agents are online or not, business hours, etc. So those three to me can kind of keep you solid and steady going forward when you have the info for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the automation piece is huge. I think that's definitely something that we'll see more of. And while we were kind of getting some feedback or some stuff from Franco about the feedback loop, we actually had a really interesting question come in that I would love to kind of toss up for anybody to jump in on. What tools and processes are you using to anticipate the customer's needs and close the feedback loop with ops and product? Be kind of curious if anybody has a good answer to that.
Tools and processes. I feel like it's more so on the processes side, to be honest. I mean, we leverage a lot of like we use ticket fields heavily in Gorgeous, and that informs like where we're spending our time day by day, week by week. And I think taking that information and just simply like having time with ops, with product, and like simply just talking about it, I think is like the beginning of it. We maybe could be cleaner and use things like not use things like Google Sheets, but ultimately it just comes down to like what works. I think like we're getting the data, we're sharing it, and if we're seeing the needle move, um, we'll just kind of keep it moving that way. But yeah, I'd be curious to see if there's other tools or other processes that you guys use out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. If anybody is kind of using any tools or any specific processes that they want to jump in the drop in the chat, we'd love to see those as well. But we are going to kind of continue on to one of our next questions here, which is a question I'm very excited for. We're going to shoot this one over to Andrew. Andrew, I guess in terms of working with Talent Pop, working with 750 of kind of the biggest e-commerce brands. Obviously, hiring patterns is something big that we monitor over here at Talent Pop. I guess what roles and skill sets have brands really started to dive into more into 2025, and kind of where do you see that going in 2026 across, CX, operations, all of those different avenues?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Garrett. When it comes to hiring, I think for anyone that's actually done hiring or the organization and ensuring that team operations is running efficiently and smoothly, you understand that hiring the right people is the most important thing that you can do for your business. Um, and it's really difficult to figure out who's the right person to hire. What are the actual things that we want to be hiring for in this year? One of the things that we're seeing across all of our top clients is that there's an increase in people that are hiring for positions or types of people that can assist with initiating or increasing sales, right? So you have all these customers that are getting sent over to your website. You're probably running some paid type of advertising, and you spend money, you spend time to make sure that your landing page is beautiful, that your buttons are optimized, that everything's in place, that there's as little friction as possible. But realistically, some people are just going to come to your website. They're going to have questions, and it's not necessarily something that an abandoned cart email offering 20% off is going to answer, right? That's a very small portion of it. Some people might abandon cart or just not make a purchase because it is a money sensitive thing. Other times it's they have a question that needs to be answered. And we have a lot of our clients that are coming to us looking for individuals that can be added to their team that have some type of sales experience, that have the knowledge that is necessary to answer these questions that customers are having and turn that person that's on the website just viewing the product into an actual customer, whether it's for the first time, whether it's for the second time. And that's kind of a part of a service offering that we offer here called Brand Concierge. But that's definitely one thing we're seeing across the board. And then just to add to that, not to make this extended, but it's making sure that you're hiring the right person for that. So for us specifically, we are reviewing hundreds of applicants every single day for these roles that brands are looking to add. And I think that's another really important aspect is not only ensuring that you're adding the right people to your team that's going to help you to reach your goals, but making sure you're adding the right person as well.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean, hiring is always a challenge, I think, in kind of in every industry, but especially customer service. I know that's it's super important. It's kind of the forefront, right? It's the people that are answering all the questions, really driving forward the brand's, the brand voice and how they respond to their customers. So I couldn't agree more. I had to notice one of the questions here in the chat. I wanted to read through this one and kind of provide a little context, but we wanted to start implementing AI to more effectively help or more efficiently help our customers and free up more time for our small CC team. We have experienced a bit of a resistance as our customer base is a bit older in age range, and they enjoy knowing that they're always speaking to a human. Do you have any advice of how to utilize AI but keep our service personable? Truly, I think for me to answer this, and I could kind of kick it over to somebody here in a second, but we have a fantastic AI implementation team here at Talent Pop, and I think that would be something that I would push for, especially for David. And I think that would be a great conversation for possibly with the Talent Pop team. Andrew, do you want to speak a little bit more to that? I'm sure you're keen to.
Yeah. I regrettably, and I'm probably gonna get yelled at for not knowing. I don't know a ton about that service offering. However, I do know that we've worked with a few really large clients that have really enjoyed it. And I think that's a question that I wanted to ask is like, if your customers are feeling that type of way, if there's that type of friction that's being built between your implementation of the AI and the interaction with your customers, I think it just comes down to doing an audit and making sure that your systems are being set up in the best way possible. There are a ton of companies that I've called recently, like Ring Central is a big one, where when you talk to their voice or their voice system at first, like you feel like you're talking to a real person. And, there's always like things you might run into where you start to realize like, oh, it's not. But I really do think there's a correct way to making sure that process is set up correctly. And that was something I was going to mention too. We have our AI enablement program, which I know has helped a lot of our clients and customers. But yeah, I think just making sure that it's really tested and set up correctly is a very important thing.
Absolutely. I've heard countless times of people who have great AI set up and they're using it for a lot of different things, but the maintenance and kind of monitoring its outputs and making sure that everything is working effectively and that the customer base is obviously talking with the AI and engaging very well is a big point to make. So definitely agree with you there. Want to kind of kick this over to our next question, which I think is a fantastic. We get to bring Natalie in. Natalie, I guess a big question for a lot of people in the e-commerce world. Gorgeous has, great visibility across thousands of merchants. But I guess what are some of the operational or help desk behaviors and kind of some of the features separate to the top 10% of CX teams today? Like what are they using and kind of walk us through some of the things that you're seeing?
Happy to. Thanks so much. Also, quickly for the older customer base, a little bit of history about me. Before I was on the partnership team, I was a CSM. I was going to say I know David at Talent Pop really well, set up accounts together. Andrew is right. Great team. They know what they're doing. I am happy to answer some side questions about that. I'll put my LinkedIn. If anybody wants to contact me, I'll make sure. I think before I get into my really fun question, I will say their setup is just going to be a bit more unique. 100%. There is a learning curve. There will be kind of this innate years of pressing zero on the phone to get to an agent. I get it. I do it. It's just going to be a setup thing that you want to tweak a little bit, but I don't think all hope is lost. I think that is very possible, and I've done it with some older customer bases too. In terms of what am I seeing features wise that separate kind of good CX teams from great ones? It is so cliche, but it is true. I think a lot of at the time that kind of all these AI tools started coming out, you heard the word add-on, Gorgeous included. We had like automation add-on. That has changed a lot in a little less than a year. I think now for any company, the biggest difference between good and great is going to be that it's not so much an add-on, it's your fundamental piece. The reason I say that is companies that are really leaning into it are doing better. Again, assuming that it is done correctly, we will happily help you with anything, with anything that you need to make sure you feel that way. If it is being set up properly, it's doing a huge favor to your team, which like the talent and the agents are the driving force behind any of this, whether it's set up or when they actually do get to a ticket. You're doing a huge kind of benefit to your team and customers. At the end of the day, automation is supposed to just be a multiplier, right? It's not going to replace the team. It's just supposed to be something that kind of makes the team and your customer experience smoother, more efficient, faster, quality faster. We'll add an asterisk for that forever. So I think the teams that actually are like, oh, maybe I'll do it for a few tickets, and they're actually setting that up first and then working around it, they're seeing data that reflects that that's working really well. So another thing I want to point out about that component is when you're using it in a way that makes sense, you are speeding up the actual human interaction of it. So for escalated tickets, I don't know if this has happened to you guys, but I've definitely had to tell my story multiple times pre my service. I talked to one person, they passed me to their manager, I say it again. They passed me to their supervisor, I have to say it again. All of that is very antiquated, and we don't have to live that nightmare anymore. If you can gather as much information beforehand, your team is then equipped to handle escalations in a very modern, hopefully smoother way. There's always going to be that one. But if you come in kind of armed with, hey, this is their order history. They've shopped here many times. They never return. This is what happened. This is who they spoke to. And you're equipping your team with the resources to have the best conversation that they can have. The outcomes of that are going to show whether it's like a repeat customer, a CSAT score, feedback. In any capacity, you will see that. So I just think the people that are leaning into that know the difference. And then final point, because I know I can go on about this forever. This is a fun topic for me, and I'll let everybody else go. I think the biggest differentiator on this one is going to be what AI kind of opens the team to. So I've talked to some brands and they're like, oh, hey, I have this agent that like they made this great chart to see like why people are returning this item so much. And that's their side project, but they don't really have time to do that. When you're giving these people their time back, you're really going to find time to test other things. Should we test a sort of I think it was one of the questions, Rich, maybe I think your name was Rich. I slacked you, DM'd you. If you want to test like, hey, should we start doing post-sales calls now that we have all this time back? Is that a thing we want to look into? Should we start hitting up people left a 5-star review and being like, would you be interested in testing our new beta? You're going to have time to develop these things that you didn't have time before. And the people that are leaning into that experimentation and taking full advantage of the talent that they have, not just kind of doing these mundane burnout triggering tickets forever, it's going to reflect in how the team performs. and then obviously the customer experience. So I think the biggest TLDR of this question is to not be afraid to use AI as kind of like your foundation and your core, and then really continue to grow and nurture your talents, interests, and kind of like the A/B testing of these things that could really make a difference long term now that they have the bandwidth to do so. Sorry, Garrett. I shouldn't be able to answer these things so long. You should like buzz me,
That
award
was
show style, like tell me to get off stage.
No, that was fantastic. I think there was no way we were stopping that. I think we were just going to take in all of the good information that entire time. No, thank you, Natalie. I think there was one thing that stood out to me there was just wow, like hearing the baseline for automation and how AI can come in and kind of set that ground level for people to be able to dive into new tasks or figure out new things, right? Like this is how that innovation kind of starts. And I just thought it was really interesting hearing that because we hear AI everywhere, right? But hearing it in kind of that sense of, hey, how do we enable our team to go out and try new things with kind of AI working in the background is really interesting. I know we had a question here for Andrew. So Andrew, I'm gonna shoot this one your way. How do
Yeah.
you screen for like kind of a CS hiring process? You can look at, 100 resumes, but how do you call out the right person out of all the right people kind of during the busy hiring seasons?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was just answering that question in the chat too. But when it comes to the hiring perspective of things, you can go in, review hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of applications, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it comes down to more than that. It goes past just obviously a resume. There are many factors that determine whether or not somebody has the ability to be successful. Um, and with it, one of the things that we implement and we do here at Talent Pop that I think is really helpful is we conduct our onboarding week, which is just a time where with new applicants that we're considering introducing to the brands and the clients that we work with, we're first screening them through this onboarding week in a way where we're having them join live trainings. They're getting to interact with our team. We're making sure that, past them just having these requirements that are needed to uh, even be considered for this type of role that they're applying for. We want to make sure that they're going to be the right type of mesh with our clients. They're going to be a good fit for overall culture of our organization. And having that onboarding week really, really helps with that. For people that might not have the ability of doing something so time intensive, another thing that you probably could do, maybe you want to check with your HR team. And I don't know about the legalities on some of these things. There are things that I always think make sense, but sometimes you're not able to do it. But it's like doing a very small task, not giving somebody a ton of direction, but asking them to accomplish something really small. Like, dude, create a presentation about yourself, the things you like, and like who you are, and like present it to my team. I think like little things like that will give you a better sense of what type of person is this individual, and just being able to do things where you can understand and maybe learn a little bit more about a person on an actual human-based level, I think is really how you bridge that gap of ensuring that even if you interview or review hundreds or thousands of applicants, this person is probably the best fit for this thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the video idea. I've seen that more and more in different people's hiring process, just really
Yeah.
trying to get to know these people before obviously they make their decision and kind of bring them into their team or kind of their brand. So yeah, I love that. I think that's fantastic. Kind of making a little bit of a pivot to the past here. I wanted to kind of bring back, either the good and the bad, whatever. Maybe this makes you scared of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday season. I know for some people in e-commerce, that's a scary time, but it's also a great time, right? So wanted to kind of pose a question, I guess, to everybody, thinking more about the most recent Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday season. Obviously, brands are starting their promotions earlier and earlier. I feel like Black Friday might even be by Halloween now. It's just kind of all over the place. What did you see that actually gave brands, kind of a competitive advantage? Or what brands did you see that were winning in that space? And I guess how were they winning early in Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
It's funny you mentioned that because I was about to say I think Black Friday, Cyber Monday lasts the whole year now at this point. Then the prep starts earlier and earlier. So especially on the shipping side of things. So I think the advantage still goes to folks that are starting early and also communicating proactively. So when it comes to shipping, it's huge to make sure that customers are aware of clear shipping timelines, transparent inventory messaging, automated workflows that handle repetitive questions that don't fill up the backlog of questions that need to take priority. So that's certainly huge. But another big differentiator was tight alignment with fulfillment partners. So we were working closely with a lot of our customers that expect a really large uptick in orders. So when CX, ops, and logistics are in sync across all those sales and promotions, brands avoid the typical holiday chaos and deliver a better and smoother experience. And then on our side internally, of course, we're always prepping in terms of labor, making sure we have enough staff in our facilities, and all of those good things. So yeah, earlier earlier is better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think like earlier is better for sure on like the e-com brand side, getting ahead of things as much as possible just helps be aware of what could happen when the actual Black Friday comes and the shoppers kind of you expect that increase in volume. So yeah, I would say like the brands that won during Black Friday, Cyber Monday aren't the ones with the biggest discounts, but the ones with like the clearest expectations. So that's kind of how I would look at it.
Yeah, really well said. I think one of the things we saw across the board with our most successful clients during Black Friday, Cyber Monday was just being organized prior to it, really making sure that before you start these discounts, these sales, these promotions, it's making sure you have the proper team in place prior to it, making sure they have all the tools, resources, the infrastructure that's necessary to be in a position to be successful. So for us, we had brands that were staffing as early as, early October to make sure that by the time Black Friday came, team members that we might have added in addition to for that support that was going to be needed were well trained, well versed. Everything was a well-oiled machine. And I think just making sure that you're properly prepared for that is a big thing we see across our clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't stress it enough. I think I bought less stuff this year on actual Black Friday and probably more in the 2 to 3 weeks leading up, which, as funny as that may seem, I guess that's kind of the direction that we're trending here. So I saw a couple comments in the chat about prepping early. Yes, I think that's obviously a kind of a main theme here for the Black Friday. Yeah, things selling out. Obviously, I feel like it's not the same as it once was of getting into all the stores, but even online now, it's still the battle to get the best stuff and get it as early as possible. So. Awesome. Well, we're going to kind of transition into kind of like the big thing everybody's been talking about. I feel like I hear it about 15 times a day, kind of AI in the CX world and what that looks like. So I'm going to pose the question, I guess AI is accelerating quickly, but adoption is uneven. I guess in practical terms, what does effective AI look like inside support teams these days? And where are you seeing the strongest ROI in terms of speed, quality, and revenue impact? I know we talked about this a little bit, but would love to hear from the group.
This is a tough one. We are for from our perspective, we are very much in the exploratory phase of AI. So like I can't necessarily like answer with confidence. To be honest, I'm really curious to see what Natalie's perspective is here.
I feel like I spoil alerted myself. Like I said, a lot of these in like my last answer. To me, the biggest ROI is time. I've gotten more time back. I've seen agents that actually have time. Again, I know I'm such a broken record, but like I've seen, or even as a CSM, I still keep in touch with a lot of brands that I used to work with. Even it just opens the door to actually do a lot more things. So to me, the biggest ROI I've seen is time based. Um, I've also seen people get really creative with how they use it, but time is to me the best thing you get back, but also that's the hardest thing it is for some, like for most of these teams when they would come in pre-setting up any like whether it's internal AI or what they use to answer their tickets with, if it's workflow, etc. Monday mornings were always awful because basically most people shop during the weekend, or like a lot of people shop if you're me on like Friday evening after like a glass of wine. And you come back and all your questions and like an inbox is totally packed on Monday. And then everything is kind of like falling off and you're starting off really rocky. Again, if you set this up properly, you should not have these crazy Mondays, or maybe you have time to have more proactive time like, hey, what sales coming up? Should we change our FAQs? Are they updated? Do we need to train anybody on this launch coming up, etc.? So that's what I've seen from like a points perspective. Um, and that's just been really nice to watch. I'm sure there's going to be a million more examples. I'm still testing out too, like Franco, what works, what doesn't, what people tell me works, what doesn't. But time to me is just the biggest like wow that I've seen. I know if I keep seeing it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Absolutely. And this is actually fascinating. This kind of loops back into some of the proactive, reactive stuff that we were talking about. And honestly, I kind of want to push this question towards Andrew. I guess one of the bigger things that we're seeing is, how AI is giving teams more breathing room, right? Like teams are overwhelmed. If we're not proactive and we're reactive, the backlogging issue becomes kind of a big thing. I guess, Andrew, like, what are some of the best examples you've seen in kind of brands, shifting their CX to like proactive CX, and like what did those results kind of unlock, right? By using AI for some of the mundane stuff, but then also kind of giving your team a little bit more room to run in terms of free time and flexibility.
Um, so I think there's two things we kind of want to break down here. Is like there's different things you can do to help your team being proactive and the benefits you'll see there. And then you might have an aspect of that which you can like even incorporate some AI features into it. But I think just on a proactive basis, like doing really small but yet simple things within your organization or your customer service can go a long way. One thing that I wish and I hope that it's still taught to all of our agents. That's like such a simple thing that we used to, or that we do include in our training program is just like if a customer reaches out about where's my order, they said that it shipped on this date on a Monday. It's now Wednesday. The tracking hasn't updated. Let them know to maybe your team lets them know like, hey, we'll check back in 3 days. If the order still hasn't shipped, then like we can send you a new one. Most brands, what they don't do is just set up a snooze reminder or some type of reminder that, hey, 2 days, 3 days from now, I should actually check on behalf of this customer, look to see if there's anything else we have to do without or for this ticket, whether it's replace that order or, just confirm that the tracking has been updated. And it's just like such a small thing you can do to enhance the experience. And I think like your team being cognizant of that can really go a long way. And there's a bunch of other opportunities within actual businesses where I feel that brands can create those types of experiences for their customers, and it's not expensive. It's just really being aware and mindful of the experience. On the AI side of things, I think that there's the capability of just being able to, I don't know, provide your team with a correct database that has all these answers and things available. So I think from an AI perspective, it's just making sure that you're continuing to use these tools to help your team enhance and just move through these things a little bit more quickly. Whether that is AI tools that can help them look up things in a knowledge base a little bit faster, or it's kind of all I can immediately think of when it comes to mind for the AI side of things.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think a big one is the quality too. I think that's kind of a big piece as well. And we'll be curious to see how kind of enabling those CX teams with a little bit more time, and then also, providing, again, like we talked about earlier, the foundation of AI to be able to give teams more time back, and kind of stay away from those backlogging issues, how that kind of goes hand in hand in teams being a little bit more advanced. I know we have a ton of questions, so I'm going to get through a couple more of these questions as quickly as possible for our panelists here. Natalie, going to jump over to you here about Gorgeous's call whispering. We know that this is kind of new lit live agent coaching during some of these active calls, kind of just a way to get CX at a higher quality and a higher caliber, which I know a lot of people are going to be investing some time into in 2026. I guess, how do you see the features like this shaping the future of CX teams here in 2026? And I guess, what big impacts do you see this having upon some of your brands?
Yes, I will go quick for the sake of time, but also for the chat, I did see a question of how many examples. Can I give more examples of busy Mondays? I see you. I will reply. Just want to make sure you know I saw you. Call whispering has been asked about for a very long time. So I'm very happy. Just a quick kind of update if anybody doesn't know what it is. We had call monitoring, but now agents will have the ability to basically listen live and give training. Feedback is kind of the thing that comes most to mind mid call. Obviously, they can opt out of that. It's not going to be in the actual call log. It is just one-on-one. Obviously, the customer can't hear. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact me. This has been a biggie. And also regarding anything similar for like chat email, they technically can in the tickets. It's not the same effect, but it is kind of feasible. I'm happy to break that down separately via internal notes on that front. So just TBD there. I think the biggest thing that call whispering is going to do is, and again, I know I'm so cliche. You guys can yell at me in the chat. It's putting higher expectations on human agents. So like we know AI can handle the basic things, cool, cool, cool. We have that under our belt, but now everything for the actual human talent is going to be held to a totally different standard in a good way. We want to hold our people to be as great as our brand is on everything, and we're hiring these people, so we feel really good about it. But now with like call whispering, for example, you can train quickly, immediately kind of anticipate what might come up if they're working with a senior agent or you're looping in somebody who maybe is a product specialist and you typically do returns and you're covering, et cetera. There's a few use cases. I think these features, though, that we're rolling out, it's just going to make it that more is going to be expected from human agents, and we know that they can deliver. It's just how we're going to kind of see that, especially with hybrid work environments not going away anytime soon. It's just going to be much easier to kind of do that and feel very together. Almost like if you're like in an old school office. That is a really new feature. It's great. I've gotten good feedback so far, but if anybody has any specifics, I'll make sure Dory knows how to have you guys reach me and I'll follow up. Just watching the time, Garrett, so I'm going quick.
Hey, we appreciate it in any way. We know that there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of good people that are looking to reach out in the chat. Obviously, Natalie will be responding to those the best she can, but she also has a bunch of information to share. So there's a lot of stuff to do here. But as we do kind of give Natalie some time to read the chat of all the questions that people have, let's kind of ping pong over here to Heidi. Heidi, we know ShipBob is rolling out instant. Obviously, super excited about that. Kind of the event-driven inventory, sync across Shopify, Amazon, BigCommerce, kind of in early 2026, it sounds like. I guess, why is this so important right now? And how do you see your real-time inventory kind of changing the CX game moving forward?
Yeah, this is really huge for us. We're super excited about it. So essentially this moves us from a 5-minute refresh interval to true real-time inventory intervals, which is very, very exciting. Why it matters, a few different reasons. So obviously e-com is moving faster and faster than ever. So flash sales, influencer drops, and seasonal spikes can kind of sell out your inventory in a matter of minutes, as we know. And even small sync delays lead to the overselling, the cancellations, and ultimately lead to really, really frustrated customers. So from a CX perspective, like I mentioned, it prevents the overselling. So the moment an item sells on one channel, the inventory updates everywhere. It reduces support issues. So when your inventory is accurate, there are fewer order exceptions and fewer customer support tickets, which we love to see. And ultimately, it just keeps your inventory super, super accurate. So every change is reflected instantly, whether it's picking, packing, a return, or a restock. So at the end of the day, the real-time visibility really builds trust and makes the customer experience that much more reliable, which we're very, very excited about.
Absolutely. As much accurate data is always great, but having that new refresh, I could see being just kind of eliminating a lot of problems down the road as well within the shopper experience. I think that's always a big thing is how fast can we catch issues? How fast can we, get ahead of things going wrong in order to kind of mitigate the damage down the road. So no, I think that's fantastic. Appreciate you sharing some of that stuff. And obviously, definitely some time to reach out to Heidi as well to learn a little bit more about that. We have a few more minutes here, but I'm going to pose a real quick final question here for our panel. If you could give one piece of advice to, I guess, all of these amazing CX leaders and members in the chat moving forward in 2026, let's go rapid fire. Does anybody have any just tidbit of insider information to help people move through the 2026 year here in CX?
I'll go really, really quickly. I think building a CX organization that thinks like operators and communicates like marketers. So that's my biggest piece of advice. I think kind of the future belongs to teams that combine the empathy, the data, and the operational excellence and precision. So if you invest in that, good things will come.
I absolutely love that. Totally agree. I think what I would add there is like advice would be to optimize for trust and not just speed, especially when things break. Like trust first, like customers know what to expect. I think we've set that expectation and now it's like going the next level and establishing a level of trust and reliability.
Last 2 cents from me. A lot of people, what I see is they have these really great tools, and a lot of times they're not really even being optimized. We're very guilty. I've seen it with Gorgeous accounts, AI, all sorts of things, whether AI related or not. Really review your tech stack. Are you making the most of it? Is it maybe falling short? Did you hear something amazing today that you're like, hey, my thing doesn't do that? Should I look into that? You're in the perfect time of year to prep. Just to reiterate back on our Black Friday, Cyber Monday question, these tools can be a game changer for your team in terms of like their workday, avoiding burnout, obviously from a customer experience standpoint. So really look into what you're using. Is it working for you? Are you guys putting the resources in? Do you need to get some help? All those things are available, but it's worth looking into. Though I know it is cumbersome. Some people have some crazy tech stacks, but it is worth looking into and shopping around so you avoid this craziness or you're ready for the craziness. I'm sure it won't go away in during Black Friday or whatever your hectic season is. It's worth putting the time into it because you might have more at your disposal that is great for you than you know you do. You just maybe don't use it or you're kind of sparked by something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very easy for us this time of year to be a little bit more relaxed, right? We just came off a very long season with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the holidays. And it's just a great time in the year to really make sure that you're driving things forward. I think one of the things that we constantly are reminded about with the brands that we work with is that great CX isn't just built off luck, it's built off, actual intention and making sure that you're driving progress forward. And, using the time that you have really wisely to do so goes a long way. And making sure that you're doing the things early on in the year or as early as possible, just to make sure that you have the right people, the right structure, um, the right tools, the right resources in place for your team is an extremely important thing to do. And, the thing that we see with the teams we have in place, and with the clients that we work with is just like that's always changing. It always needs to be updated. It's not something that you do once, you let it be for 6 months, and then you set it and forget it. So just making sure that you have the proper team in place to make sure that that's consistently being done and updated is really important.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a couple good points to leave here with. I'd like to officially point out Andrew saying that everybody should relax. You earned it a little bit. I think that's a great thing to hold on to into the new year, but also a bunch of different ways to, of course, drive our CX kind of in a new direction here in 2026. I want to thank all of our panelists for coming out. These people, they do have jobs, and they took time out of their day to come hang out with us and truly give us the inside scoop to their everyday. So I want to thank them for all coming out and spending some time with us. Obviously, keep an eye out for the follow-up email that will be coming out to everybody who joined today. We'll also have a replay in the C Explained community here shortly. That's a community that you can join. Daria should be dropping that in the chat here very shortly. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we're wishing you a great 2026. And we hope the CX engine kind of pushes you forward this year. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.